Welcome, coaches. How are y'all doing this Saturday evening? I am here with Mike Pawlawski. Pawlawski. I say it right because I'm an idiot.
Pawlawski, yep.
There we go. We're going to be talking about a lot of things, especially I want to get your take on quarterback stuff because, I mean, you're a professional athlete. You played quarterback for longer than 11 years, but a pro athlete for 11 years. I want to know the ins and outs. But for those coaches that are on that don't know who you are, could you give us a little bit about your backstory?
Oh, this is the way to do it, Coach. You let the guest introduce themselves. I love it, right? And so I played at Cal, obviously college football. I to all you WingT guys out there, I apologize. I played in the worst offense in the history of football for a quarterback as a WingT for high school. My high school coach was fabulous, fantastic dude by the name of John Turek. Helped me fall in love with the game of football. I didn't start playing until I was a sophomore in high school. Somehow got a scholarship at Cal because I was all state as a safety in California. And then ended up playing quarterback under some great coaches at Cal, and we can talk about that in a little bit. But got drafted by the Bucs in the 8th round after my senior year. Was lucky enough to have a great team around me at Cal. Got the Pac-10 Offensive Player of the Year in 1991. Went on to play in the NFL with the Bucs for 2 years, and they drafted Craig Erickson and myself in the same year, kind of the same exact guy. I think Sam Weiss was trying to remake Joe Montana, right? Both 6'2", both 205. Kind of, he was trying to create that guy. Ended up bouncing around for a little bit. CFL, played for the Baltimore team first, and then played for Shreveport Pirates. That same year, I played 30 games of professional football, played for the Miami Hooters in 1995. We have to talk about that team.
Yes, we do.
And then went on to play for the San Jose SaberCats, played in the CFL Shreveport Pirates. And then 96, found a home with the Albany Firebirds. Took over there, ran it for 96, 7, 8, 9, and 2000 with the Firebirds, and then finished off in the XFL in 2001, the same year that league ended 8 other quarterbacks' careers as well. So good run, a lot of fun, a lot of different offenses, exposed to a lot of football and a lot of different dudes, and had a great time with it. I've been a broadcaster of football since 96, been calling college games, so I was broadcasting while I was playing, and then ended up also starting my own TV production company and doing an outdoor TV show. First fly fishing called Familiar Waters, and then a hunting show called Fall Flight with my dog BJ. She was actually titled in the show, which is kind of cool.
That's
and
awesome.
then ended up doing a show called Gridiron Outdoors, where we brought either current NFL athletes, former NFL athletes, or college coaches on to go hunt and fish all over the world with us. And we got some fantastic stories from Gridiron Outdoors as well. So we have a term on our show called getting leached. And I'll tell you about that one because we had Mike Leach out with us in New Zealand. So it's a good time.
We need to get onto that. But I want to come back to, you played safety and you got a scholarship to Cal, and then you became a quarterback. How did that work?
Well, they actually gave me a scholarship as a quarterback. They saw in me a quarterback. I had, I believe, 11 or 14 interceptions as a safety my senior year.
Lord.
And I was, as a quarterback, just reading eyes and running and reacting. But I had 1,200 yards passing and 1,200 yards rushing as a quarterback because the WingT. And so they saw in me a quarterback, and I could throw the ball. I was athletic, right? I also played baseball, so I had some baseball coaches talking to me too. But they saw a quarterback. And I was really, really fortunate to get Terry Shea my first couple years as a quarterback's coach and offensive coordinator. And Terry, I couldn't have asked for a better mentor as a coach. Terry's just a fantastic human being. He was a great mentor for me. And actually, Steve Mariucci recruited me out of high school. But we can talk about Mooch, too, because he's awesome. And the quarterback ahead of me, Troy Taylor, is now the head coach at Sac State. In my opinion, the most brilliant offensive mind in America. So I was surrounded by some pretty talented people. When I got there as a puppy, I didn't know anything about football. Again, WingT. And then I'm going to keep throwing that out there.
That's
just because
fine.
I laugh about it.
I love it.
Yeah. But so those guys helped me learn the game of football, and it made a huge difference, in my future as a football player.
What was the biggest learning curve going from, like you said, the WingT to learning about other things besides the WingT? What was the one thing that went, holy crap, this is
so everything, but I'll give you an example. Okay. We play Alhambra my senior year, right? We were pretty good, 8-3, 8-2 at this point, but we're playing Alhambra, who is a team in Southern California. I grew up in Southern California, and they're good. They're athletic. They got a stud fullback, a couple of good safeties, a whole 9 yards. And I was always taught that when you get pressed on the outside, you could throw the fade, right? And so David Shirota, little Japanese wide receiver, fantastic dude. He's 5'7", but he caught everything you threw at him. Is out there. They're pressing him. And I'm like, I'm going to check the fade. Well, they're running cover 2, right? And so I checked the fade into cover 2, throw the pick over the top. And I'm like, how did that happen? Like, I had no idea how to read coverage because all we're talking about is buck sweep, gut, sweep boot, all that stuff. And I had no idea how to read coverage. Now, I played safety, so I understood coverage from that side, but I didn't wrap my brain around it on both sides of the ball at that point because I was just an athlete playing quarterback and I hadn't learned to be a quarterback playing the position yet.
How long did it take you to finally learn, to get it?
So I thought I was all that coming in, right? I think like any high school athlete that gets recruited, they just think they're all that. And I became this tiny little fish in a really big pond in the Pac-10. And Troy Taylor, who's a really good friend of mine to this day, I actually go spend time with the Sac State coaching staff out there to kind of learn what he's doing, tells a great story. I'm out there and Terry Shea, trying to support me, trying to mentor me. And he says, all right, Mike Pawlawski, get back there and stick this one in there, right? Throwing the out route, just the deep out. And I drop back and I skip 10 yards in front of the receiver. And Terry turns around and he goes, that's not quite what we're looking for, and kind of walks off. And Troy loves to tell that story every time he introduces me to somebody. But it was that bad as a freshman. They must have been wondering, man, we're going to have to use this guy on special teams or something. And during the season, I came in the fall, during the season, you don't have a lot of time to teach young quarterback stuff. Now, Terry always took time out of his day. He would watch some of the scout team stuff I was running to coach me through it. He would talk me through offensive systems. He would do all of that. But I really picked it up by watching how Troy Taylor, the quarterback ahead of me, handled himself as a quarterback, watching his reads, picking his brain, sitting in the meeting rooms with him and talking about football with him. He is truly football savant. We had just basic slide protection, man zone protection, and we used to call it silver, right? And so silver, you always denote it for the back because you kind of coach to your weakest link. So silver, our back would go left and our line would slide right. So silver was telling us to go to the back, go left. And one day, they kept hitting us with 4 weak on the right side, 4 weak on the right side. And Troy Taylor was like, well, why don't we just slide the other way? And football was so unsophisticated, or maybe it was just we were, but it was so unsophisticated at that time. We only slid one direction. We could hot it, we could gap protect it with a full slide, but we didn't man zone slide the opposite direction. And so we went silver and gold all of a sudden were our two protections, and it was this huge deal. So I was kind of learning as the offenses were growing.
All right, so the quarterback in front of you was helping you out. Now, as a coach, because you're a coach now,
yes,
you make it a point to be like, hey, Johnny, you're the starter, but I want you to take Frankie, the backup, under your wing and do the same thing? Or are you just kind of leaving that up to, if the starter wants to help out, great. If not, too bad?
No, my quarterback rooms have to be supportive of each other, period. First and foremost, there is never a question of any type that's off limits in my quarterback room, right? I don't want any quarterback to be intimidated by what they don't know. I think the more information that they have, now I don't try to put everything on them, but the more information that they have, the better they're going to play. So no question is ever off limits. All of my quarterbacks, one of the first things I tell them is, you guys need to support each other, you need to help each other, you need to figure things out together, because it's all about team, right? And team chemistry starts at the offensive line, but the quarterbacks direct it, and the quarterbacks form it, and the quarterbacks kind of show people how to react to it, right? They model it for everybody else. And so quarterback room has to be cohesive. And if the quarterback room isn't cohesive, I find a way to make it cohesive, or we're going to run until it is.
What's your number one tip to make that cohesive? Because I have been in quarterback rooms where I've tried and they just get along. They hang out together after practice, all of that. I've also been in quarterback rooms where the two kind of hate each other because they're so competitive. Sure. They will talk trash. They will get in each other's face like that because one thinks they should be the starter of the other. what is something I can do if I face that again to squash that and make them come together?
I think every quarterback needs to feel like they should be the starter, right? Because the one thing every quarterback has is they are ultra competitive, right? I brought Jared Goff on my hunting show, and he hadn't fired a gun before. I got him on the rifle. He shot 3 shots, and he hit 2 in the bull because we were coaching him up. And literally after his 3rd shot with the rifle, he looks at me. He's like, "Let's go, competition." I'm like, "Come on, dude. Like, I've shot hundreds of thousands of rounds downrange. Like, let's just get you shooting first." Quarterbacks have to believe that. They have to. I was hunting with Mike Leach, and we were talking about putting a tree stand up a tree. I'm like, "Yeah, just put it on there and climb it up." He's like, "You quarterbacks are all the same. You just think whatever it is, you're just going to make it happen." Right. So everybody has to believe they should be the starter. Now, that said, we all have to be respectful of coaches' decisions, of quarterbacks who are playing. And so it gets back to no question goes unasked, right? We're going to have respect for each other. Everybody gets to ask questions. There's all things that we don't know. The other day in practice, I told the quarterback he missed a read, and I went back and looked at it on film, and I was wrong. And I came back into the quarterback room. I said, "Hey, I completely blew that. I was completely wrong. I missed that. He got the right read." And so as long as we're open and honest about everything, I think guys get along and they feel better, right? We're not trying to hide anything. I think people kind of get guarded. Everybody has their own little fiefdom, and that's when you start having problems. But if we're all open and honest, and I tell them, I think you guys should both think you should be the starter. Ultimately, I'm going to be the arbiter of that decision, but you should both think you're going to be the starter, and however the cards fall, we're going to be a good, cohesive quarterback room.
Yeah, I want to come to that because I'm sure you've had quarterback challenges, and I want to kind of pick your brain, like, how do you go about picking one over the other? But I do like that you tell the quarterbacks when you're wrong. And I feel as if when you do that for the kids, they kind of builds that relationship a little bit more, like, oh, this guy's not BSing me, like he owns up to it. Do you have any other little insights where you can build that one-on-one connection with your players a little bit more? Because I have coached with some coaches and actually been around them where they just don't seem to make that connection with their players. And that can kind of cause a little friction later on in the season. And I didn't know if you had any tips or anything like that.
A huge one would be don't try to coach something you don't know. I coached my son when he was younger. I coached at the freshman and sophomore level. And I saw coaches trying to coach what they didn't know. And rather than actually coaching, so let me step back one. Really good friend of mine, Mike Pawlawski. He's the head strength and conditioning coach, University of California, human performance stuff. He's phenomenal. Looked like they built the bat suit based on his body. I mean, he's just phenomenal, right? He coached at De La Salle 4 years with Coach Ladd. And so Bob Ladouceur is a legend. I know Ladd really well. I've called a bunch of his games. And Ladd told him, and he continues to repeat it, it's a mantra: if you can't teach, you can't coach. And so you never try to coach something you don't know, because if you don't know it, you can't teach it. And if you can't teach it, what you end up doing is screaming the same thing over and over and getting louder and louder as if you're going to get it across by being louder. But if you don't know it, if you don't fully own the concept, then just tell them, "Hey, I don't know. Let me find out. Let me find out what we're doing here." And coach what you know, right? Be really good. It's part of why I love what you're doing, Coach, because simplifying means you can really rep the stuff that you know and you can own it. It takes 1,000 reps till you own something, 10,000 until you're great at it. And so what you're doing by simplifying offenses, like, it's music to my ears, because coach what you know, do it over and over and over, and then kids can play fast. Same thing for a coach. If you don't know it, don't coach it. Don't try to coach it. And be honest about it, saying, "I'm going to find that out." I do it all the time in practice, right? I played 11 years pro. I've been calling 20 years of college football, and something will happen in practice. I'll say, "I don't know. Let me ask coach. We'll figure it out."
Okay.
And just go back to it. If you can be honest with it, right? Get your ego out of it. That's how you create great teams.
I completely agree. And I'm glad that was going to be my next thing. I was going to ask, have you ever been asked a question by your players and you just don't know it? And what do you do?
All the time. Yeah, I apologize for that. I'm getting a call from the wife. So,
hey, if you got to
I'm going to hang up on her. I'm going to get in trouble for it later. But it happens all the time. Something will come up and you'll be like, yeah, hold on. I will check on that and I will get back to you later, because I don't want to coach something that's wrong.
Yeah.
And so it's better that we not know for a while and then we get it right when we first install it, right? Because first impressions are big impressions. And so when you teach it wrong the first time, it's going to leave a mark, and you have to kind of smooth over that as you go. Whereas if you teach it right the first time, you're just repeating the process. It becomes, you say it enough times, you repeat it enough times, it just becomes automatic.
Yes, I agree. And I love that, man. You're speaking to the preaching to the choir here. I do it in math. Like there will be some really smart kids I have in my class, and they'll ask me a math question, and I will go, I have no idea. Let me Google that real quick, and then I'll get back with you. And kids that have problems with other teachers, when you tell them that, I find that when you're just open and transparent with kids, they don't give you a problem because they're like, this guy's not bullshitting me.
That's exactly it. This guy is not lying to me. He's not full of crap. He's doing what he does. Just think how much better we would be as human beings if we could just take ego out of everything, right? If just as a human race, if we could get rid of a lot of the ego. Now, ego is part of what drives us to be great too. So there's a give and a take, but you have to find that line where I have enough ego so that I have the drive and the ambition and everything else to be great, but not so much that it interferes with my opportunity to be great, because there's kind of a dividing line there where you hit too much ego and all of a sudden that keeps you from becoming the great player or the great person, the great salesman, whatever that you could be. And so just that perfect amount of ego that makes you work hard, but not so much that you're a dick.
Because once you pass that point of no return on the dickness, there's no.
Yeah, you're just a dick.
You're done. Circling back, now you have two quarterbacks that are neck and neck, and this is a problem I really have. Mm-hmm. Do you have any tips on like when to give one over the other, like the nod to one kid over there? Do you have like drills and you keep? I know some coaches keep tallies on completion percentage and practice and everything like that. What?
Yeah, it's tough, right? It's a tough one, but I think you have to let two things trump each other, right? Tallies. So you have to keep stats. And I told him from day one, I'm keeping stats going in. Every ball we complete in practice, every ball we compete in Skelly, every ball we complete in team. And then it's senior versus junior. If it's dead even, my older guy is going to get the nod, period.
Hold on, because a lot of people err on the other side. Like if it's dead even, I'm going with the younger guy because I have more time. He can make more mistakes, but you're the opposite. Why is that?
Because you're talking about a really young age group, right? And so a year of difference in high school makes a world of difference in maturity. And so if you're talking about starting a sophomore over starting a senior, or starting a sophomore over starting a junior, that sophomore can still pick stuff up along the way, right? He can still learn it, and he can grow, and he can become a leader. Leadership in the huddle, in the team, is what creates chemistry. Everybody is all about X's and O's because they think there's magic in X's and O's. Let me tell you, there is zero magic in X's and O's. Zero. You execute them. There are other great football coaches out there that execute X's and O's. So there's no magic in what you do on paper in terms of your offense. The magic comes in the chemistry. The chemistry of your team is where guys don't know how to build it enough. Guys don't know how to create it enough. And that is the difference for championship teams. Defense and chemistry wins championships.
I'm tingling right now because you're speaking my language. How do we build chemistry? Is it those trust falls that you see a lot of people doing? Is it like going off and doing a military style camp? Remember the Titans and building it? Or are there little things that we can do throughout the day to build that chemistry?
It's little things every single day. I just talked to my quarterbacks today, and I said, hey, here's the deal. Some of your guys are playing pretty well. In a quiet moment, you got a second, pull them aside and let them know. Love them up. Give them love, right? Who doesn't want to be loved? I mean, you give me a pat on the ass and I'm gonna be like, hey man, I feel better about myself. This is great, right? And so you go over and give them, I don't want it to be false. I don't want it to be rah BS. I want it to be real. But when your teammate is playing well, let them know, right? And a lot of, again, there's where ego comes in again though, right? These young kids don't want to expose themselves because their ego's out there and they don't want to kind of extend themselves. But getting your team to extend itself, to feel comfortable, to trust each other. It's like Meet the Parents. It's the circle of trust, right? You're building the Fokker circle of trust around your team. That's what you want. You want them to trust each other. Where if they're doing something great, you can say, hey, man, you're doing something great. I love it. I appreciate it. And I'm willing to extend my ego and myself out there and expose myself. so that when he calls somebody, your guard misses a block, you can say, hey, you got to pick that up, man. That dude just fed me my face mask. That's also within the circle of trust. And so getting those guys to expose themselves, to be open to each other, and to be accountable to each other, right? Accountability is a huge piece of it. There is, I don't want to get political, but there's a lot of entitlement out there right now, right? If you're entitled, you're not accountable. Wipe that stuff off. As soon as you step between those white lines, we are accountable for our actions. We're accountable for our plays, and we're going to love you up because you're accountable for your successes too, and you're going to get credit for them.
We're going down a rabbit hole because I want to talk on this. This is something that we faced this year. How a lot of kids have no problem talking to your guard and be like, hey, you got to block that dude because he just destroyed me, and just yelling at people when they make mistakes, but they don't give praise when they do something good. How do you go about changing that just a little bit? Because I can yell at you if you miss a block, if I'm also patting you on the ass and telling you great job when you do something great.
Well, there's a feedback loop to it, right? I mean, you feel good when somebody tells you that you've done well. There's also a feedback loop for you as a person when you tell somebody they've done well and they go, oh man, and you see that you made them feel good. Unless you're a sociopath, that makes you feel good too, right? And so like I pat somebody on the ass, I said, hey, great job, man. I love it. I went over, talked to 3 different receivers, talked to my quarterback today at separate times. I'm like, hey, I love that. One of my receivers came up to me before practice and asked me, because we just changed out of play to kind of clean it up a little bit. And he said, okay, so on the backside, I'm running a get open. And I'm like, exactly. And if we call it the opposite way, what are you running? And we went through it all. And then like 10 minutes later, so you let it settle out, right? I don't want to congratulate him in a minute and kind of lose the power of it, the impact of it. 10 minutes later, I walk over to him. I say, hey, man, I appreciate you coming over and asking those questions. That's what we're looking for. We're encouraging that. That's what I want for my players, because if you're doing that and you're getting them to ask questions, then everybody's on the same page. When we're on the same page, we can play fast.
Oh, I love it. I never thought about waiting a little bit, let it marinate it, and then going and giving them the compliment. I'm always right after. I'm like, hey man, that's freaking brilliant. Thank you for asking that. Because I'm like you. I love the questions, because when they're asking the questions, they're engaged. And when they're engaged, you can actually teach them and coach them a little bit better. So shit, I'm writing that down. That was brilliant right there. Let's circle up. I know you're a coach. You do offense. I'm guessing WingT, shotgun WingT, pistol.
Yeah,
wing
we're total WingT and single wing stuff. I'm all about it.
What kind of offense do you run? Are you running an offense you wish when you were in high school you ran, or is this a combination of? Go ahead.
No, sorry. So yeah, we're running the spread stuff. We're running 4 wides, right? We're spreading it out, but we're also running power counter. We're running pin and pull. We're running front side zone. We're running stretch. Like we're running all of it. And so, but we keep it as simple as possible within those schemes. I am a huge proponent of running the football. I know guys are not, but I think it helps quarterbacks out when you have I know it helps quarterbacks out when you have a fantastic running game. My senior year at Cal, we were exactly 50-50 running and passing. And I think I got sacked 13 times in 12 games in the Pac-12 with some Willie McGinnis is playing there. We had, some stud football players playing in the Pac-10 at the time. And because we could run the football, now play action opens everything up for us. And so I want to run the power. I want to run the counter. I want to be smash mouth. I think there's a certain amount of toughness. And Leach and I kind of go back and forth when we talk about this stuff, but there's a certain amount of toughness to running the football. He wants to run the football. He wants toughness. He wants smash mouth, but man, he's going to fling it. I wish I would have played for him, but I think having that running game also lends a mentality to your team, a toughness, an attitude that when you are, road grading people up front, it sends a message and it helps you out. If you're ahead in a game where you can control the clock and you can run power 6 times in a row, or run power and counter and hit them with a pin and pull, or hit them with an outside zone or inside zone, I think it just helps you a ton.
Do you think that's your WingT background rearing its ugly head, and you're just like, okay, I'm just going to embrace this part of the offense, but everything else can kick rocks?
Absolutely not. I heard you on the if then the other day. That's the best thing about the WingT, right? The if then. But no, we ran the power I when I was at Cal, and this comes from the power I and from watching college football. What teams are winning national championships? Name one team that's won a national championship that couldn't run the football.
I love this. I hate that question when people always go, name me one team that won the national championship that ran the air raid. I'm just like, man, piss off, but you're absolutely right. You do have to run the football. So
and in high school, listen, I'm telling you, because I've listened to your stuff. In high school, boy, the air raid is, if you're running it right, it is unstoppable. Like, you just can't. I coach quarterbacks privately out here, and there's a local team out here that runs air raid systems. And I coach these guys in the air raid, and we run 7-on-7, and they throw for like 6,000 yards a weekend. I mean, it's insane. And so I love the air raid. Leach is a good buddy. We were just talking, about air raid concepts the other day. A lot of what Troy Taylor does at Sac State is air raid. He's actually married air raid with power run. And it's pretty nasty. If you ever get a chance to watch Sac State offense, it's his quarterbacks when he was in high school. He was at Folsom High School. You remember Jake Browning, who was a quarterback at Washington forever,
yes.
Was his quarterback through 77 touchdowns one season. And they ran for like 2,000 yards.
Jesus.
I mean, it was insane.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, my whole thing though is running is sometimes I don't have those guys that can just power you.
Sure.
But I guess golly. Okay. So gun to your head, favorite run scheme. What is it? Is it zone? Is it power? Is it counter?
Oh, in high school, it's power, right? It's hard to teach the zone, to get everybody on the same page, kind of teaching zone blocking, and you're going to block space. Good luck. Go get it. Right. And so it was hard enough in the NFL. I watched these guys trying to figure it out. Whereas, when you're blocking power, we're going to double down, knock this guy out of there. You're going to run and either kick, or you're going to, wrap around and find it. Just find the, most dangerous man. That's easier to teach, way easier. That and counter, right? Because essentially same idea. Just going to double somebody the hell out of the way, go get the one technique, and then wrap it and go get it. So that's my favorite run scheme. It's Bible, man. It's, the power. If you can run the power and you can run it well, you're pretty hard to stop. You mix it with some play action.
I have also found this year, because of COVID, we're not as bad off as y'all are in California trying to get everything in 2 weeks, but we were close. And I'm a huge inside zone guy, like huge. Yeah. But I found out as this season went on, counter was a lot better just because of the rules. Like, they just be like, oh, if something's not there, I just work up to the second level and just find somebody. And that was our best run. And now this offseason, I find myself, and I hate it, man, looking at the WingT stuff, just the run game, because it's kind of simple for high school.
Oh, WingT, it's got rules, right? It's got absolute rules. Like, if you leave a player in space and you're like, yeah, figure it out. These are high school kids. They haven't had a lot of offense around them.
Yeah.
I don't want anybody to have to figure it out. I want them to have a hard, fast rule. And that's one thing I believe in. I'm good with option routes, like the air raid stuff. I'm good with it. And for a long time, I was not, because I came from a background of, you will run this route at this depth, and I'm going to read coverage, right? So I came from the West Coast system. I'm going to read coverage. Everything was on the quarterback. But, being friends with Leach and kind of learning his style, Troy Taylor kind of really extended that out a ton, has kind of opened my eyes to other opportunities. And now I've actually installed a lot of Troy's and Leach's concepts in our passing game to pair with our power and our counter and those kind of concepts. I'm still our head coach, right? I'm just coaching quarterbacks and helping on the offense. Our head coach is a fantastic dude, and he runs, the wideout stuff, no huddle. We're going to hit you with tempo, the whole 9 yards. But that said, he likes what he likes, and he likes making it super simple. And I'm the classic quarterback jackass who wants to come in and, hey, let's throw this in today, coach. Like, I was teaching protections down with our quarterbacks and offensive line. We're getting 4 week, and I watched on film, one of our upcoming opponents loves to bring 4 week, third and long, right? And so I said, oh, well, here's what we're going to do. We're just going to check protection and get ourselves protected. We're going to be able to throw, a 12-yard out or whatever it is without getting hit in the face. And so I put in a protection, stuff that used in the NFL, rather than, redeclaring Mike. I'm just going to go full slide, pick up that outside guy at the back, and we're off to the races. And I told coach about it. He's like, oh, no, we're not doing that. So it's like, I'm always trying to put something new. And he did let me put in 2 new pass plays this week. And every time I watched him on film, I left the huddle note in there saying, hey, coach, that was a great concept. That's an excellent idea you had there. We had 4 dudes open out of 5. Pretty good.
What two plays did you put in?
So I put in it's a 4 vertical concept, but we're running a quick timing route on the outside. So we're throwing the out on the outside. Our guy can absolutely stroke the ball right now, and so we're putting in the out on the outside, and then we're running verticals on the inside with an option by number 2, and then we're running a bench with a high low on the backside. So now you're just going to straight progress across the field and keep the quarterback's eye flow clean.
Okay, and you said
it's
that
like 6. It's like 6, but we're just adding pieces to it.
Speak a moment. Look at you. We've been hanging out. You've been hanging out with Leach and you're picking up the lingo. And I want to know, like, what was something you picked up because you went hunting with him, you talked to him. What was one thing he said that just blew your mind? Like, I didn't even think about it that way.
So, well, it's not so much one thing that he said. It's the first time I met him. And then the second time I met him. So it's these two paired together. First time I met him, I'm calling Cal games, and he's coach at Texas Tech. They're playing at the Insight Bowl down in Arizona. And this was when the air raid was pretty new, right? Pretty new to big-time college football. And so I saw him. I said, hey, Coach, Mike Pawlawski, played 11 years pro. And, I just curious, what is special about the air raid? What makes it different? And he looks at me in that classic Leach way. He's like, well, football is an easy game. And I'm like, well, okay, let's try this again, right? Because he's clearly just patronizing me. And I said, well, but what's the key for you in the area? He's like, well, you get your guys in a space that they're not in. And I mean, you get them open. I'm like, all right, whatever. He thinks I'm some media jackass guy. And I went away with this kind of impression of Mike Leach. I'm like, whatever, so I walked off. And then we brought him on a bear hunting trip up to Alberta. And when we sat down and talked about it, I'm like, oh, he really thinks that way. He wasn't just patronizing me. He was actually being honest. Like, that's how he thinks about football. And he's right. He's actually really right. Football is way, way, way easier than we make it. We make it so difficult. And it is really get your athletes in space and get them the ball and let them do their thing. When he told me that he started the air raid based on the wishbone, I'm like, you are out of your freaking mind. But it's true, right? Get your best athletes the ball in space with leverage against their guys and let them do the work. And so it was pretty genius. And just like my first impression of Mike Leach was entirely wrong. And when it clicked for me that he really does believe that football's an easy game, I'm like, oh, now I understand this a whole lot better.
Yeah, so then how long have you been coaching high school?
Oh, well, so this is my first year back full-time coaching high school. I've been coaching high school quarterbacks. And I coached, sophomore stuff. So I coached freshman and sophomore. My boy was a lineman, right? His hand was going to be in the dirt for his entire life. And so we didn't really have a quarterback. So I actually ended up coaching line when I was coaching before, which I loved, right? Because that's where the heart and soul of your team lives, on the line.
Yes, it is.
And so I coached line, did that, got away from it for a while, and just kept broadcasting, working with high school quarterbacks. And now I'm back into the game, and I've been doing the outdoor TV show for 20 years. And this is the first year that I'm not doing the outdoor TV show anymore. So I'm back into coaching full-time, broadcasting, and we've started the YouTube channel and obviously the website for Elite Athletes TV.
Yep. And speaking, great segue. Here is the.
See, I know how to pop my stuff here.
Yeah, you do. Like a pro, man.
Right?
Right there in the comments. It's good stuff. I watched it all this week. I really like it, man. And you dive deep into a bunch of stuff. Your quarterback, like, what do you see with quarterbacks that you have had to work on? You're like, man, a lot more quarterbacks need to know about this technique or this throwing, because I played linebacker in high school and in college. I'm not really a quarterback guru. I can help. I do some things, but I'm always trying to learn. What is something you wish more coaches knew about the position and started coaching it that way?
So I will say this first, and this is not a knock. The term quarterback guru is a joke. There's no such thing as a quarterback guru. You coach and you are a teacher. Your quarterback is doing the work, right? So you aren't magically creating quarterbacks. That doesn't happen. So there's no such thing as a quarterback guru. You are a teacher. That's the first way you need to look at it, right? And so everything is something that you can teach to your quarterback. They have to learn it. They have to pick it up. And if they're not picking it up, it's because you don't have the right words. Because all these guys, every quarterback I have ever met wants to learn and wants to improve, period. Yeah. And so if they are not learning it, it's because you haven't found the right words. And so figure out your coaching language first, and it changes for every kid. So that's a huge one. Second, coming out of college, I think I told you I was a Pac-10 Offensive Player of the Year. I had the worst release in the history of football, maybe. I mean, it was awful. People knocked Tebow. I was right there with him in terms of my release. Dropped the ball. I was a catcher in high school, right? I was Kansas City Royals worked me out. You know, MLB was looking at me as a baseball player. And so I'm dropping the ball down and horrible. I mean, teach quarterbacks proper technique. And if you can do it from an early age, think about Tiger Woods, right? Tiger Woods could literally have won the Masters at his peak with a butter knife taped to a broomstick because he was that good. Because it was natural. He started golfing when he was like 2 years old on Johnny Carson, right? And so if you teach kids how to throw early, they don't ingrain the bad. It was what I said earlier. If you teach it wrong, it leaves a mark.
Yeah. And
you have to clean up that mark. It took me 2 years. I got to the NFL and I had never heard about my release in that way that it's going to affect you, because I was like a 64% passer in college. And I got, when NFL scouts and coaches started coming to talk to me, Tollner came out and said, Ted Tollner, he's like, you would be my top guy except for your release. Like, you're the most efficient guy out there, but your release is awful. And so, and it was. I watched it myself on film. I actually talked to Mariucci about it. I look at him like, how could you have let me keep doing that? And he's like, it wasn't broke. You were a 64% passer. I wasn't about to fix it. I'm like, I guess it makes sense, but getting that ball up high, because once you start, the more moving parts, right? The more things are moving around, the harder it is to keep all that together. And so teach a clean, efficient release. We actually have an ebook on the site for any coach out there looking to kind of improve their quarterbacks. It's pure passing mechanics. I got a little sciencey on it because that's my background in terms of teaching. Like, I want you to know absolutely everything and take what you need from it. I'm going to actually update the ebook with kind of the simple version too. But right now it has everything in there from every different position of the throw. And it's just passing mechanics. It's not how you get to it. It's just pure passing mechanics. And that's super important for quarterbacks to understand those. Everybody's going to be different, but to have a clean stroke first and foremost means you're going to be accurate and you're going to be efficient. And then you start working with drops. Other guys do it the other way. They work footwork first and then they work throwing. Yeah. And I think it works either way. But I don't want a guy to have great feet and ingrain a bad passing mechanic at the same time. I want him to have both. And so I'm going to teach him clean how to throw as I build his drops and build his footwork into his passing mechanics.
Okay. And I'm going to be completely honest.
Was that too much? Sorry, I get a little geeky about it.
I don't know. I try to get the mechanics down, but I don't have a degree in body mechanics and stuff like that. Like I've got books back there that I try. Yep. I found myself, I work on footwork because I'm out myself, but I feel more comfortable teaching that than throwing mechanics. And I try to kind of do this, but I don't want you to think back there. Cause when I first got it, man, I was into like all this different quarterback stuff, get that this up here and all this. And then I was overloading my quarterbacks when they
it's a rabbit hole. You can go so far down the rabbit hole. It's crazy. There's 5 stages to it, right? Okay. Everybody talks about 4 stages. There's 5 stages. It's your base when you start, right? So when you set your initial base, you want a nice wide base that you can start at. So there's not a ton of movement on the back end. Everybody talks about wide base for a quarterback. Nobody tells you why, right? A, you're stable, but B, if your feet are in here, you've got to make a step that's here. Can you see it here? Yeah. Your step has got to be super wide. Whereas if my feet are already wide, I just have to make a little step with that front foot. So it keeps me clean and efficient. Secondly, we're using what's called the stretch reflex. Any physiology, any strength and conditioning coach understands stretch reflex is the most powerful reflex, most powerful muscle action in the body. When you stretch a muscle, a large muscle group, instead of that having to go to your head, to your brain, for your brain to react and tell your muscle what to do, it just goes to the spine. The spine goes, whoa, grasp it, use that muscle tension. And so you want to load. Stage 2 is you load that back leg. So you're loading that back leg. Once you load that back leg, now you become a glute thrower, period. You're going to throw from that back glute, right? That's where all your power comes from. Everybody's doing all these stupid torso drills. I see these guys doing these hip drills. Like for young quarterbacks, I'm like, all you're doing is screwing them up. You're making them less efficient. You're going to drive off that back glute with that wide base, short step, right? That short step with that glute drive is how we harness the force that we've just created. Again, now we're going to get all Isaac Newton on you, but ground reaction force, right? The amount of force you put into the ground is the amount of force that's coming back up when you throw that football. So strong glute push to the front, hit that front foot, right? Create that ground reaction force that transfers up the body. Now is where torque rotation comes in. But we want to think quarterbacks, if you're teaching this, think about a pipe, like a tetherball pipe going straight down through the center of your head. We're rotating around that. We're not this big rotational move. And so once you do that, right, everything comes into effect. If we're not being wide with our rotation, everything comes into effect. We're rotating tight, and we become linear as a passer, and linear is how you get accurate.
Jesus, man, I'm gonna have to go back here and take some notes because this is good stuff. And I want to just preface this by saying you in your quarterback meetings say there's no dumb questions. Okay, so here comes
no dumb questions. No.
I've found that a lot of my quarterbacks, when they throw, they come off their back foot. They kind of swing it around.
Right.
Are they supposed to do that, first off? And second, how can I stop them from doing that if they're not supposed to?
Well, it all depends, right? Each throw is different. And so the question with throwing is always, it depends. Throwing a football in game is the hardest single skill in sports, period, because there's a million different variables going on. So if we are cleanly just talking about the science of throwing, as I'm throwing straight ahead, you're going to harness that force off that front foot. As I come through, we want to bleed every bit of force, right, that we can create and harness. So now you've got linear force in terms of driving with that back glute, and then you're creating rotational force. As you're driving with that glute, right, it's called dissociation. You're setting the upper body back as your lower body's coming forward. And then think about it like pulling a bow. As you pull that bow and you load this back, as you step forward, now it's fully loaded. And I call getting to the stops. You get to the stops in the back. And as you come forward, that torque is going to have to dissipate somewhere. So the foot can come off the ground as long as the ball is out of the hand.
Okay.
Right? It's okay. But if you see it coming out of the ground and the quarterback falling off, now you got a problem because he got rotational. He's not on balance. Think about teach your quarterback to throw a punch or hit a baseball. Yeah. If you get that foot in front of you, my feet, when I finish, if I were to turn both toes forward, are going to be about shoulder width apart. And I'm going to be fully on balance. If you get outside of that, now is when you start to see quarterbacks leaning over their foot one way or the other. And so if they can turn and throw a punch, I don't mind if that back foot comes off the ground a little bit. There's a little individuality to each quarterback because joint stiffness varies between guys. So I don't mind that. And then they're going to follow through across the body. So I'm okay with all of that at the finish, but make sure that they are only watching their target.
Yes.
Watch. I guarantee you, watch any quarterback out there and watch him throw at the point of release. Any young quarterback, that ball's up top, and They're like this. Their eyes are up. They're looking at the football in their hand. Freeze frame it at that moment. And what that does is it creates balance issues. Now my eyes are up, and I've still got the ball in my hand, and I've changed my balance. And so that becomes an issue for quarterbacks. And so Mike Hohensee, who was my quarterback coach, Mama's calling me again, who was my quarterback coach. Hold on, we're going to take this call in the air here.
That is fine.
Hey, sweetheart, I'm just finishing up my podcast here with Coach McKie. I'm absolutely loving him. He's awesome. So
Stop.
He's teaching me all about football. Hey, I love you. I'll give you a call back. I'll send you the text you with the address, okay? I did not.
I understand.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. I've got a while here with Coach, too, so we're just getting into the good stuff. All right, love you. Bye. My wife is a superstar. She's awesome. She's brilliant. She's a CPA and just a great lady. So great coach's wife. That for a coach, you got to have a great coach's wife.
I completely agree. That wives will make or break you in the coaching profession.
Oh, period.
So you were talking about.
Did I answer all your questions there?
Yes, you did. Now here's the thing. What do I do because this happens a lot? How do I break my quarterback from looking at the ball? Because I do, like, every time I see him, I'm like, I saw you. Because I don't even look where he's thrown, like where the ball is. Most of the time, I'm sitting there looking at his because I want to know his eyes. Where's his eyes at? And every time he looks up, I just go, up, give me 5 push-ups because you were looking at the ball.
So what do you do when a dog pees in the room? You tell them no long enough, right? And you keep repeating it over and over and over, and eventually you know they're not supposed to pee in the room. Same thing with the quarterback. It's a bad habit. It's a bad habit. Just like another one for you, looking at your center as you're taking a snap. Quarterbacks getting their eyes down on the center when they're taking a snap. Watch your quarterbacks, guys at home. Watch your quarterbacks getting their eyes down, looking at their center. Bad habit. Keep your eyes up on the defense. You're not going to see through your center's butt anyway. Take that snap. Don't look at your ball before it leaves your hand because it doesn't matter, right? You're not going to change anything by looking at your ball. All you want to see is how pretty that spiral is. That's the only reason you're doing it. It's the only reason you're doing it. Keep your eyes on the target. And then once they start seeing the results, their accuracy, how much it changes, now when you remind them, they're like, yeah, I looked at my ball. All my quarterbacks now, I'll be like, what'd you look at? I looked at my ball, right? And so it's just doing it over and over and over. I've got a great picture of when I played. I think I was starting to give credit. Mike Pawlawski was my quarterback coach in the Arena League. 1996 Albany Firebirds. He was a former quarterback himself. I think he was the Big Ten Player of the Year at Minnesota his senior year. Phenomenal quarterback coach. Nobody to that point in my career had emphasized that point. I heard it every once in a while, but nobody had emphasized it. Mike Pawlawski, every single time I threw the ball, quit watching your ball. Like every single time I heard it in my sleep. And so that drove it home for me. My accuracy went from within an arm span of my guys to within about a foot and a half in terms of accuracy. Great story. And I'm going on here, right? But we're playing the Nashville Cats in the Arena Football League. Eddie Brown, Antonio Brown's father, is my receiver. And we're going to run the corner route with him. He's got a smaller DB, really good cover guy by the name of, I think it was Mark Ricks. Really good cover guy. But Eddie had him in height. And we're on our 5-yard line, which means we got 45 yards to the end zone. Eddie goes, I'm going to go in. I'm going to stem him hard. I'm going to take him up. I'm going to shake him at the top. And he goes, and if he's still on my hip, just put it, up here, top corner, and I'll go up and get it. And Mike Daly, who is probably my favorite coach of all time, who's our head coach, he tells a story, and he's got this, Maryland accent, real high squeaky voice when he gets excited. He goes, and I'm thinking to myself, this guy's fucking crazy. It's 45 yards off, but he's going to try to put it right here. Well, I drop back. Ricks is on him. I put it up high in the corner of the end zone, drop him down, front pylon. He catches it going in. And Daly's like, and Pawlawski effing did it. Like, what the hell? And so, that's the kind of accuracy you get when you get your mechanics right. My mechanics weren't right when I came out from college, but it took me 2 years to get them right. Once I got them right, my accuracy and then Hohensie with that final piece of keeping your eye on your target brought my accuracy down to that.
You do great accents, by the way.
I appreciate that. I've worked since the time I was young. I've got a great Irish joke, but I can't tell it here. You'll get banned.
But yeah, let's not do that. But
right? Yeah, that's not good.
I love it. And what I try to tell my kids about that is, hey, when you shoot a basketball, when you shoot it, are you looking at the ball, right, or are you just staring at the goal? And because they all play basketball, and they go, I stare at the goal, and then I ask them, then why the hell are you looking at the flight of the ball when you throw it? And they have no idea. It's like you. They kind of fall in love. They just like to see that spiral.
Oh, I want to see how pretty that spiral is, man. You think about how long it took you to throw it consistently, right? Yeah. But here's the thing. Every athlete I coach, the very first thing I tell them, I'll ask them, I said, what is your most important physical tool as a player? Like what's the most important thing for your game? And, I'll get, my speed, my arm. Oh, no, it's your eyes, man. It's your eyes. That's the one thing that if you use them properly will separate you as an athlete, period. Whether it's receivers, I hammer them. Watch that ball hit your hands all the way to the tuck, right? I hammer them. These guys are like, oh, coach, you're killing me. But I hammer them about that because 98% of drops are because a guy's trying to make a move before he catches it and he takes his eye off the ball, right? my quarterbacks, it's all about don't watch your ball. If receivers are trying to get open in space, if they just go out and run blindly, they don't know where the hell they're going. Use your eyes, right? And as an athlete, use your eyes. That's the most important tool that you have.
Circling around the Leach, do you think the reason why he's had success is because he took that and he's like, his whole mantra is find grass, take grass, the whole thing. And you've got to use your eyes to do that. So he's teaching his players actually how to look at the game in a different way. Do you think that is why he's had a little bit of success? And also, did that change your mind because you said you're bringing more stuff into your passing game because you like it? Are you teaching your players the same thing?
Yeah, no, I am. We've got a couple guys that really intuitively know how to get open. They have a feel for where they are on the field, just a natural sense, right? And if you have that guy, you best use his talents or else you're a bad coach. Because if you're not coaching, this was my pet peeve with coaches. You're going to do it my way, my system, and that's it. Look, if I don't have the guys to run my system, I'm going to find a system that my guys can run because it's all about the players on the field. I hate, again, it goes back to my guru thing. No such thing as a quarterback guru. No such thing as a coach who's going to win games. Coaches don't win games. Players win games. And so if you are not allowing your players to play at their peak, doing what they do best, then you're not a great coach.
I agree. And this year, at least in South Carolina, it showed that scheme really doesn't mean shit. It is whose team has the best players. Because we didn't have that much time to install offenses or defense or anything.
Yeah,
but
it's dudes, right?
That's it, man. We walked on a field, the game we got spanked in the playoffs, and their dudes walked out. And essentially all of our coaching staff just like looked at each other and like, they were bigger, stronger, faster. And we're just like, ooh, and everybody that won the state, you looked at it from the highest classification all the way to the bottom. Those teams had dudes on top of dudes.
Like having dudes is how you win football games.
Yes.
But you also have to put those dudes in the best position to win. Like you could have dudes and you could ruin them by trying to run something they can't run. Use your dudes, especially in high school, right? In college, you're recruiting. Every guy you're recruiting is a dude at some point. So you get the choice. You get to pick your dudes in college. Scheme's going to change. But in high school, you got to play with the hand you're dealt for the most part. And so, pick what they do well. Run what your players run well, not what you're in love with, not what you know how to call. Put your players in the best position to win and get the dude out of your player. You know what I mean? Don't try to make him into something he's not. Make him a dude by allowing him to do what he's best at.
Okay. I want to go down this rabbit hole a little bit. How do you do that? So are you okay with changing offenses? Like one day, let's say 1 year, we got to go to the WingT. Then all of a sudden we have some transfers that come in and then we're like, oh shit, let's go 5 wide. And then the next it's like, we got some heavy dudes. Let's go to the I. How do you balance that at the high school level so you kind of have some consistency to build a program? Because you can't be changing things up at the JV or B team level to the vault.
Yeah, keep just new learning every week. That's always successful. Yeah, no, that's just have those pieces within your offense so that it's not new learning. When I played in the Arena League, I had a great offensive coordinator by the name of Ed Hodgkiss. He was a young coach. He had coached in college at I think the D2 level, and he got there in his 20s, and I was in my 10th year pro, 9th year pro, something like that. And he'd come in every week and he'd have 80 plays, right? And I love it. He was genius. He had some really good stuff. He always created good plays. He was always right on the mark. But I'm like, coach, we got to coach to our weakest link. This dude ain't gonna be able to figure all this new stuff out. And so I'd literally go through every Monday and I'd be like, we're cutting this down to 35 plays, and this is out. This is out. We can get this from here, so nobody has to learn anything new. I love this. We're going to put it in this week, but we're not going to run it for 2 weeks in live play. And so there was never any new learning, right? I was always teaching stuff. So if you have in your system some kind of power run, some kind of counter off of it, some kind of zone, all those things in your system, now I'm going to coach to what talent I have on my team within that. I may have 4 wides, but maybe I'm a much better heavy set team. So I'm going to run the H-back, the heavy H-back, instead of running, the fleet guys on the outside, and just coach to what you have and stay within your terminology, but have enough that they've heard that they're comfortable with that you can run it within your system.
Good answer. Good answer. I thought you were about to say just run the WingT because that has the answers for everything.
Yeah, no, definitely run the WingT. Yeah, but that's always the answer.
What I found, what really works, I have found, and talking to other people, this is what I've fallen in love in the offseason this year, the jet sweep. Because it's very, like, you can add it to any kind of offense. You don't have to go Mark Speckman and like come up with all these different things,
right,
but
47 different blocking schemes
exactly on the outside. But it's something you can add in that if you have that speed guy that really can't catch the ball, you can just, hey, come this way. I'm just going to hand it to you, and you just do what you do.
Yeah. How do you get the ball into it's Leach. How do you get the ball into the hands of your best athletes in space? Whatever that is, do that.
Yeah.
It's simple. Leach told me so.
So y'all have started in California. You play your first scrimmage the Saturday coming up. Is the next game after that?
Yeah. So first game is after that, non-league for that first game. But they're literally like 3 minutes down the road from our high school. And then after that, we go right into league. Our league is actually Sluggers Row that we're playing in. We've got De La Salle in our league. He hasn't lost a game in Northern California since 1991. Clayton Valley, another good school. Monte Vista, who's always really good. San Ramon Valley, always really good. So these are really good teams. And so, we go scrimmage out of league and then strap it on, boys, because here it comes.
All right. How is De La Salle so good? Like I'm from South Carolina. I know of them. The only thing I know is they run the split back veer and they haven't lost a game in probably since I've been born. What makes them good in your opinion?
There's a couple things in their favor. So my college roommate was a De La Salle grad. And I was, part of the haters. Everybody, haters on teams that have success, right? Like, oh, they're recruiting. Oh, they're this. Oh, they're that. And I was when I was younger, I was part of that group. And then I got around them and got to know them. They don't have to recruit. They have the benefit of being the only school that does what they do for like a 30-mile radius, right? They were. And so, the kids that want that advantage, that want that help, that want to be at that superstar sports program, that's really the only game in town for them. So that helps them in one respect, right? Those kids are going there. Secondly, and this is the biggest piece of it, because you could always have dudes and still not have them perform. Yeah. They have fantastic coaching. Fantastic. Bob Ladouceur, outside, he's as good as he is as a football coach. He is a much better human being, right? He is a better person. And he teaches what we talked about earlier, accountability, right? You are accountable to your teammates. Teaching chemistry. He teaches kids to be responsible. He teaches kids how to be teammates. And that is really the biggest piece of De La Salle's success is those kids, the chemistry they build, the accountability they build, the work ethic they build. All of those things are why De La Salle is so good. It's not scheme. I mean, it's the veer, right? It's not special. They never quit. These guys are the Energizer Bunny on steroids. I mean, they're just gnarly. They just keep going. And defenses are great. Terry Edson, who's been over there on defense forever. Lad gets a ton of credit. Terry Edson is a huge part of that too, that D coordinator. They just do a great job of coaching their kids, and they're just really good dudes. So you have to respect them. They've got a system that they like. It hadn't changed a bunch. I mean, they've changed it some, but not a bunch. And they just coach it really well. And they teach the things that you want your kid to learn as a football player. What you hope your kid gets out of football is what De La Salle teaches them.
I'm going to be completely honest. I could be wrong, but I haven't heard anything bad about that program. Like bad paying people in it. Like, that Rush guy that was at 2-A-Days on MTV. I don't know if you followed way back in the day in Alabama. He's now in Valdosta, and he just got caught cheating again. Like you kind of hear.
No, they don't do that. They don't cheat.
Yeah.
They're super clean. Their program has been super clean. They are super clean. And that's why I said I was a hater back in the beginning. Oh, they recruit. Oh, they do this. No, they don't. They're a feeder school. There's no doubt about it. They have the advantage of being kind of the only team. They're the prettiest girl and the only dress at the prom for those guys. But at the same point, they are clean. They are good. They are they're all fabulous human beings. They really are. And I
wasn't trying to say that they're dirty or anything. I'm saying, like, if you win that much and you have that history, you kind of hear things, but you don't hear anything.
No.
Like, everything I've heard is they run a legit program.
I am here to verify what you have not heard. They are good. They run a legit program. They do it right.
Man. Were they always that good, or was it until he got?
Oh no, before. So no, they weren't. They were bad way back when. My roommate was actually, I think, part of those first teams that started winning the winning streak, right? And so they were kind of bad before that, but then they put together a program, and it's that philosophy that I was talking about, LAD, where if you can't teach, you can't coach, and they teach first. And they create chemistry, they create accountability, and they're really good. I mean, they're just really good at it, and they care. Their players know that they care about them. And so I'm a huge De La Salle fan. I used to be a hater. I'm a convert. I'm a De La Salle fan. I've gotten to see the inside, and I think what they do for kids is great. And that's what I would like to present for kids in high school, right? My whole goal, I love coaching. I love football. I love X's and O's, right? I dig it. It's my jam. But I also love affecting young kids' lives. I love being a mentor for these kids. I love being there, being able to share my experiences and hopefully help them grow and learn that accountability, learn that self-confidence, learn all those things that I think my coaches were fantastic. I want to be a fantastic coach for these young kids.
I agree. And I'm going to come back to De La Salle in a minute because I have a question for you, but what can coaches like myself do more of to help build those kids into, I mean, let's be honest, we see them a lot more than we actually see our own kids. What can we do to like mold them more so they're ready for the real world? And yeah, I know
these days, it's tough. I mean, so everybody out there on social media, here we are on social media, is going to tell them that they're entitled to things. Right? That's what's going on in the world. And again, I don't want to get political. That's not what happens in sports. You are not allowed to be entitled in sports or somebody's going to knock your ass off, especially in football, right? Football is the greatest game in the world because you can't play 10-man football, right? 11 dudes have to play every single play or else you're going to fail. And so I think teaching them to overcome that entitlement, to build the chemistry, to be accountable. Accountability is the biggest piece of it, I think. Teaching them to be accountable to their teammates and then to open themselves to get over their egos, to be part of something greater than the individual, right? It's all the old ancient sayings, right? A bundle of arrows are stronger than a single arrow all by itself. You're teaching this to your kids, and you have to teach them, A, through example, exposing yourself to it. B, through experience, they need to do it, have success with it, right? That's why I like to, when that receiver asks me questions, I tell him at the time, great job. And then 10 minutes later, come back and reinforce that, right? Reinforcement, positive reinforcement gets so much more because people are going for what they want. And so reinforcing those good behaviors and not detracting, but either ignoring or minimizing the bad behaviors. And then, you just hope you get a group of good kids too, right? A couple cancers can ruin it. A team, there used to be a formula. You could have about 2 cancers for either side of the ball if you have strong leaders. But if you don't have strong leaders, only 1 cancer can ruin a whole team. And so that formula, if you have the cancers, you either have to let the inmates run the asylum, right? Do what they do and let them run it. Or you have to have strong leaders that can shut that down. And if you have those strong leaders, then nurture that, encourage that, help them lead that team by putting them in positions to do it, and always look for the teachable moment. In my opinion, my biggest strength as a quarterback, and I hate self-aggrandizement because that's not what I'm about, right? I'm about a team guy. I love being part of a team, but my biggest strength was as a leader. Eddie Brown, who I told you about, was my receiver. He got out there. We're playing Orlando in a regular season game, and he's playing against a guy, Kenny McIntyre, who's an Arena League Hall of Famer, right? Guy I think had more picks than anybody in the history of the game. And this guy's kind of locking Eddie down. He's jamming him off the line of scrimmage. He's locking him down. Eddie's not getting open. He's frustrated with his game. So what does he do naturally? He comes back and yells at the offensive line, because that's their fault. And so he starts screaming at their ass. And I call time. I go, timeout. Call timeout. And I pull him aside. And I look at Eddie. And I said, hey, those skinny guys are blocking their ass off so that you and I can throw touchdowns and so that you can shake your ass in the end zone. I said, they care about this more than you do, more than anybody does. I know that you're passionate, but shut your mouth. And he starts, jawing at me. And I look at him. I said, hey, here's the deal, dude. Shut your mouth. I'm going to go over to the sideline. I'm going to tell Coach D, either you bench his ass or you bench me. Who the hell do you think he's going to bench? And he looks at me. I'm like, shut up, shake your ass, catch touchdowns. Let's go. Got back in the huddle, right? Played the rest of the game. And I will say this for Eddie. He is maybe the hardest worker I've ever played with, right? And he cares. He cares about it. He gets a little emotional, but he cares. And so when we came back that Sunday, we had a 3.5-hour talk about the mentality of offensive linemen and how you should treat them and how you should treat teammates and accountability and all those things. We had a 3.5-hour talk in the training room. Made the trainers wait around. They hated me for it. But then after that, Eddie became the picture of the perfect teammate because he got it and he played his ass off. And he did nothing but encourage the fat guys. And that went a million miles for those guys. They saw that he was willing to go out there and encourage them and be part of the team. And they absolutely ate it up because all those fat guys want to be receivers, right? They all want to be specialists. And now you've got the superstar. The guy voted the greatest player in the history of arena football is now giving love to, all those linemen are Labradors. They just want to be loved. They just want you to give them that respect. And so if you build that trust, build that around your team, that's how you lead, right? And you lead by example and you lead with the right phrase, the right chosen word at the right time. And so it literally turned that team around, not turned it around, but it literally brought the cohesiveness of that team together. Coach Salle used to say, winning is the glue that binds a team together. And that was the glue, right? We started winning. Our team got together. We won the world championship that year and eventually got ranked the greatest team in the history of arena football.
Nice. Yeah. And winning solves a lot of problems.
Yes, exactly. Winning solves a ton of problems, right? It's the best perfume you can find.
Yes. I had Coach wanted to know where he could find your ebook, the quarterback ebook.
So eliteathletestv.com. And when you get on the side, we haven't gotten everything exactly right for the marketing piece of it yet because I'm a quarterback, not a marketer, but I'll get there. But right at the top, as you go right below the scroll bar, you'll see get ebooks here. Click on that and make sure you leave me your email because you'll be getting my emails. By the way, Coach Ron, your emails are fantastic. Like I every time I get your email, I open them up just to kind of get the day. Your emails are awesome. Love them. So go there, you'll find the ebook there, and it will literally take you through as a coach. If you're a coach and you want to know how to teach your quarterback the mechanics of passing, this is it. This is how every NFL quarterback throws. If you watch Tom Brady, outside of him patting the ball a little bit, but once you have a wife with one name and you make $40 million a year, you can do whatever the hell you want. But outside of that, this is exactly, his form. And so within that framework is where every quarterback needs to be in terms of mechanics.
Okay. All right. I dropped it into the chat, coaches. You can go get it right there. Yeah, man, that's, I like it. I like the book.
I appreciate it, brother. Yeah, we have a speed system up there too. We work with Dan O'Brien. If you guys don't remember Dan O'Brien, Olympic gold medalist, he does a faster 40 in 40 days, right? And Dan is a badass. And we work with our strength and conditioning coach, Ethan Banning, was a teammate of mine in the Arena League. He's truly one of the best strength and conditioning guys I've ever met. And his mentality, his teaching is pretty awesome. So we're growing this site out. We're building it up. But, right now, teaching guys to get faster. Michelle Granger, Olympic gold medalist. She won an Olympic gold medal while she was 3 months pregnant as a pitcher. Think about that. Amazing.
Lord.
Amazing. Through the very first pitch for women's softball in the Olympic Games, teaches them how to pitch faster. She grew up, here's a great story for you. Let's get off football. She grew up 3 miles from my house. We are playing their high school team in softball at the same time we're playing baseball. She comes over and she's pitching to warm up. I know about her. She was 15 years old on the Team USA softball. And I see her. I'm like, ooh, I got to go stand in. I got to see what this feels like, right? So I get over there. I go, and I was trying to be really polite. I'm like, you mind if I stand in? Not even because I'm a high school kid. I'm dumb. I'm not even thinking about, like, she must get this all the time. She looks at me and she kind of shrugs. And so I stand in there, and her pitch was the rising fastball. And she threw 74 miles an hour from 40 feet away. And she brings it back. She's a lefty too, so it's coming at me. And she goes, "Whoo!" and throws this thing in at me. And I'm like, "Whoa, nope, I'm out. I can't play softball. I'm done. I'm over it. I'm done." Well, she ended up getting recruited to Cal, and she ended up playing at Cal at the same time. She was 1 year behind me. She's phenomenal. She's a great coach. She's coaching, college pitchers now. But so yeah, if you got a daughter that pitches softball, Michelle's basic stuff is about to go up, and then her speed stuff is outstanding and completely unconventional.
That is. Softball scares me. I'm gonna be completely honest. How fast they throw, as close.
Stand in one time.
No, you're brave.
Dude, stand in. I was scared for my junk. It was. I mean, she was bringing it.
And lefties, I don't like lefties. I used to play baseball, and I hated left-handed pitchers.
Coming right at you.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it is.
Yep.
So I want to come back to De La Salle. You are now on the other sideline. Yeah. Everybody in the state of in California knows how great they are. How do you get your kids excited and happy to play against that team, knowing in the back of their mind, like, they've won like 700 games in a row? Do we actually have a chance? How do you do that?
Not?
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
Literally, how do you not? That's I never once went into a game expecting to lose. Period. Yeah. I never once went into a game feeling outmatched. So playing at Cal, we're playing Washington. Steve Entman's up there, right? Mark Brunell was up there. Billy Joe. I forget his name now. It's horrible. He was a quarterback against me. Anyway, we're playing up there, and they have Napoleon Kaufman, right? And Beano Bryant, and like studs. Their defense, I think they had 7 guys drafted off that defense. And they were this close to being national champions the year before. And the media's asking me questions. They're coming at our place. We're undefeated. They're undefeated. They're coming at our place. And the media's like, "Whoa, ooh, it's Washington. Ooh, it's Washington this. Oh, it's Washington that." I'm like, "The hell are you talking about? They got to come to our place." And they beat us 49-7 the year before, by the way. I thought like it was the greatest college football team of all times, potentially. If they're not, they're right there in the mix. I'm like, they got to come to our place. I don't know what the hell you're talking about or what film you've been watching, but they got to come here. Like, this ain't going to be a cakewalk for them. We took them down to the wire. Ed Cunningham, who's a buddy, ended up tripping, 2 tripping penalties that didn't get called, and they win it. And they went on to win the national championship that year. But we took them right down to the wire. There has never been a single game that I expected to lose going in. And I'll tell you right now, I love De La Salle. I respect them. I expect to beat them this year. I don't have a mentality to think any other way. I don't know how to think any other way. I can't be, I'll respect somebody, but I can't be intimidated or impressed with somebody. I just expect to win, and I'm going to do what I can to win, or I'm going to end up bloody on the floor trying.
Yep. Respect all, fear none.
Yeah.
And you kind of, you want to go in there and be like, "Oh, they've won 700. Not today. We're going to be,
they've won 700.
Yeah.
That's where it ends.
701.
Yeah. Period.
Nice, man. I love it. Are your games going to be broadcast? Like, I know a lot of states were kind of putting it out, trying to get the revenue and everything like that. I don't
think so.
Okay.
They're discussing whether or not parents are going to be allowed in the stands right now. So I live in California, man. Come on.
Yeah, you don't have to say much.
Yeah. And I went to Berkeley. So it's the 2 things. I grew up in Orange County, right? And then I go to Berkeley, which is culture shock-orama. And then, now I live in the Northern California. And so I just you got to roll, man. There's certain things you got to control the things you can't control and roll with the rest.
That is, you just made me, I want to know with that, like, you got to roll with everything and anything. Have you had any how long have y'all been out? Like a year, over a year?
COVID?
Yeah.
Since March.
Okay. So you haven't done
March 3rd or March 6th of last year. So it will be a year until we scrimmage.
How do you go in putting your offense or doing anything when you haven't done anything for a year? And if you're like any other coach, I call it Coronacation. All the Zooms, all these clinics, Zoomapalooza, you have all these ideas. And when you finally get it, you're like, I want to put it all in, but you kind of have to back off. Do you have
Yeah,
that
you
issue?
can't.
Like, no, this is what we're doing.
You just have to coach at the level that your kids can absorb it, right? They're all and I found this as a quarterback too. There's always a learning curve, right? At first, you're like, yeah, this is great, this is great. Woo! All of a sudden, it goes straight up, right? And you hit that wall of holy crap, and so you have to know when to pull it back. One of the things that make it fun, like when kids start feeling that stress and that frustration, do something fun. Get them over it. Get them to stop grinding. It's the anxiety, right? It's that stress of, I can't learn this, that gives you that block as a player. Just make it fun. And if they can't handle it, don't run it. It does you no good to run a play that your team sucks at. You have to run stuff that your team can play. And so if they can't handle it, you have to, again, get your ego out of the way. I want to run this. Yeah, that's fine. But they can't run it. Your 6-play script, dude. That's what I think. That's awesome, right? Your 6-play case study you're doing right now. Awesome. If your team can only run 6 plays that have some variables, because I know you're an air raid guy, and they have those 6 plays all of a sudden looks like 47 on film. But, if you can do 6 plays and you can do them well, right? You can execute those 6 plays. You've got plays and counters. You've got enough in there. You might be somewhat limited, but you're going to be a whole lot better than if you're running wide stretch and you don't know what you're doing on the reach block. You don't know who you're blocking. So run what you run well until your team can learn the rest. And new learning will eventually become old learning. Put it in, introduce it, and then through osmosis, it'll grow on them like moss, and they'll figure it out later on. But run what you do well, and that's all you can do.
How many reps do you give the kids before you pull the plug? And say y'all aren't good. We're going to shelve this for later on because you don't get it. Is there like a magical number, or is it just like a gut feeling like, they don't get it? Let's shove that.
Well, so it just kind of struck me as you said that, in that this is the same thing that I tell everybody in life, right? Because people are like, oh, you're so lucky that you do what you do, your TV and you are going to go as far as you are willing to settle. Think about this.
That's deep.
I will settle to make $50,000 a year. I will settle at $100,000 a year. I'm happy, right? I get to that point of I'm happy, I'm okay with it. The more a coach loves a play, the more reps it's going to get. So you will run that play until you're willing to settle with not running that play. Yeah. Right? If you know it's going to work, you're going to continue trying to put it in until you don't. What you have to do is kind of, who was it? Was it Confucius? Always be honest with thyself, right? Be honest about it. When you look at it on film 12 times in a row and it looks like crap, it's crap. And so,
but that 13th time might be it. That's the thing. A lot of coaches are like, maybe not. It looks like shit, but maybe not next time.
Right. No, definitely. Yeah. And they think, it looks like shit now, but it's going to clean up in the game. I mean, and I'll tell you, this is a quarterback. The game for a quarterback is way cleaner. Like your reads are easier. Because they don't know. They haven't been playing against you. They don't know your offensive systems. They don't know what you've been doing. They're not used to your tendencies. Like, and in high school especially, these guys are like, their butt's all tight and they're worried about getting beat. And
CBH.
And so the games clean up big time over practices. So, and it's that way at the college level. It's that way at the pro level. It's that way at every level as a quarterback. But if it looks like crap in practice and it's not because, one dude's making a mistake that you've cleaned up, it's probably crap.
That blew my mind right there, because I never thought about how easy. I've never asked my quarterback, hey, what's the difference between a game and practice? But you're absolutely right. I mean, if you do, that's the one drawback that I see a lot of coaches struggle with, is it looks like crap in practice just because you're running a small group of plays. And your kids,
they know what
they know what everything is. They know what the plays are, because if you have kids going both ways, so you're starting running backs like your second string linebacker, and if you have to switch them out, they know what stick is, the keyword for stick. But the quarterback,
stick, everybody knows stick, right? It's like,
I never thought.
And they want to look good. Their ego wants them to look good. They can't play the drill. They're not pros. They're high school kids. So it's tough. It's like, think about how hard it is to keep them from taking somebody to the ground, much less not playing, their deal. I see you rubbing your eyes when they take them to the ground.
I hate. Yep. I've been coaching for 11 years. Pretty much every other year we have lost like a starter because some slappy got out there and wanted to prove that he should be starting on defense. and he wraps up and then twists real awkwardly or slings them down, and then there's our player, and we're just like, what are you doing?
We had a fight in practice today about that. So it was good. So I'll tell you the greatest story of all time, and I tell this to all my kids. Not all time. I've got a million great stories, but this one's a good one. So Eddie Brown, who I told you about, is out there playing wide receiver, and we're running Skelly, and we have this slappy in camp who is in on a 4-day tryout workout, and which is the way the Arena League used to get around kind of player rules and having to pay dudes. But this dude's a pretty good player. Like, I think this kid's going to make the team. And Eddie runs a route, and this is Eddie Brown, right? He's touchdown Eddie Brown. He got voted the greatest player in the Arena League history, but he's one of the greatest players at that time without the vote. And he runs a post. This cat runs him into the wall after he catches it. And so I'm like, come here, buddy. I always try to help out the young kids, right? I'm like, here's the deal. Let me kind of lay it out for you. You are tackling touchdown Eddie Brown. This dude is one of the greatest players in Arena League history. This is like you running Jerry Rice into a wall. Don't be a dumbass. You're going to get yourself cut. They will see it on film if you are there to make the play and you tag off. They will see that. They'll know it. But to be a pro, you need to know how to practice like a pro. And that is not how pros practice. If you tackle him again, A, he's probably going to whoop your ass for one. But B, coach is not going to be happy about it, and you're going to find yourself with a bus ticket. He's like, well, I got to be me, dog. I got to be me. I got to show him that, yeah. I'm like, don't do it. I'm just telling you, don't. Just be smart. And I was trying to help him out. He does it again. Now, Eddie's getting pissed, right? This is the second time now you're hitting Eddie Brown in practice. Third time he does it, Eddie loses it. Boom. Helmet goes up, face mask comes off, and it is an all-out brawl. And the dude got his butt whooped right there. Then, as soon as he got done getting shellacked in front of the entire team, because one-on-ones from the O-line stopped, and everything stopped to watch Eddie kick the tar out of this dude. Then, coach in the middle of the arena says, get your shit and get on the bus. You're out. I'm like,
should have listened to me.
Told you. You got to be smart, man. You got a franchise player. Don't hit him. Don't take him down. Sorry. I revert into these stories. I think it's my
No, and it's the same. I try to tell the kids it's the same thing on the team. Like, everybody knows who the dude is on the team. There's no hiding that. So why would you try to, like, 2 years ago, our best running back, or I'm sorry, 5 years ago, our best running back, Spring, towards ACL because he was juking, thinking, no, we told him a rule. Nobody hits him. Like, you just touch him. Just touch him. That's it. We'll blow the whistle dead, so there's no ego thinking. And some guy just screamed out of nowhere, just took him out at the knees. I mean, just destroyed his knees. And we go, well, there goes our offense right there. Because, in high school, if you have one kid,
there goes your dude.
That's it. And we're just like, why? That's one of the reasons why I don't like scrimmaging in the spring. Like, I am a big, I can't stand it. I don't want anything bad to happen. Like, if you're going to get hurt, I want you to get hurt in the game.
You're lucky that you can scrimmage in the spring.
I know. Count my blessings.
And I'm going to tell you, I love you, and I will do this anytime with you. I'm just having a blast with you. Mama is calling again. We got dinner stuff going on.
I got you, man.
Happy wife, happy life.
You are absolutely right. I'm going to drop the chat, the website again. Coach, I appreciate you being on here, man.
Yeah, anytime. I'm having a great time with you. I would love to shoot the air raid stuff with you on and off, kind of offline, have a conversation sometime. Like anything football. Always feel free to reach out. And by the way, any coaches that want to grab that ebook, if you want to email me, I'll have Coach Ron has my email. I'll have him put it out there for you. You want to talk to me about quarterback play, feel free to reach out to me.
I will, and I'll have everything in the description. Coach, I appreciate it. Coaches, thank you so much for being here, and I will talk to y'all later.